we'll set it free, and then we'll be in a world uncertain, where you and I will learn to fly by the sun. Follow the sun, let it break you down. Don't be afraid of what you found. And to save our love, we'll set it free, and then we'll be in a world uncertain, where you and I will learn to fly by the sun. Thank you. This one I think is pretty topical because it doesn't take a political position, but kind of laments the division. It's about a fictional town where I think if current trends persist, people become so divided that they're their own individual tribe, and no one can agree on anything at all, like time of day, you know, anything. It's an absurd kind of a dystopian future, but I mean, is it that unlikely? I don't know. I feel like he said that. No, he didn't. Okay. You know, it's like, that's where we are right now. So they can't decide on the name of the town. This one's on Spotify or any of your favorite musical thieving platforms. What are you going to do, right? It's called The Town Without a Name. And over the hills and past the evergreen, there's a place where we can go if we want to live in perfect harmony with the things we think we know. And magic spells and broken wedding bells, and the river tells a somber tale of changing times and loaded nursery rhymes fan the flame in the town without a name. And all of the people live alone and free. Isolation so extreme, carefully choosing their own paradigm and their own Orwellian dream. And magic spells and broken wedding bells, and the river tells a somber tale of changing times and loaded nursery rhymes fan the flame in the town without a name. And isolation so extreme, when you become your own regime of tyranny, so hard to see what's real. And magic spells and broken wedding bells, and the river tells a song or two of changing times and loaded nursery rhymes. Fan the flame in the town without a name. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. All right, so our community moment today is by Andy Boyd. Andy is a longtime member of our community. He has just spent the summer in his home state of Washington, where he's been wandering around and visiting family, and his mind has been allowed to go all kinds of places. And we always love to be the beneficiaries of Andy Boyd's wandering mind. So, Andy, come on up and tell us what you got.
Thank you, Jennifer, and it really is a wandering mind that led to this. In fact, I came up with this really interesting fact, and I was trying to explain it to different people, and they didn't get it, and I thought, well, I know some really good pictures that I could put, and that would really explain it. And so that sent me off doing a 4.5-minute video on just a particular topic. That's kind of where this all got started. I'm always looking for to do these things, because this is kind of my fun these days, is doing these little video projects. Okay, a couple of comments. One is that the video ends with the lyric hallelujah, and so I was asked by the committee to comment on that, as to, because it has religious overtones. I originally bumped into the recording when I was searching on musical fifths, and the search engine took me to a group called the Pentatonics singing the song Hallelujah. Okay, so many of you do know the Pentatonics. And when I found this particular song, it was stunning. And not only that, but it just wallows in Western musical chords. So I thought it's going to be a good ending. But it like these things, it got me looking because I'm getting interested. So I did some background on checking on this song. I first ran into it in the movie Shrek, when Shrek and his love interest were having some trouble. But it was written by a fellow called Leonard Cohen. Anybody familiar with Leonard? Oh, okay. I was not, so this is... So I was ignorant. I think I'm of the appropriate demographic, too. So, but I thought he was kind of a neo-beatnik is what I picked up, and this is what ChatGPT described him. He said, this is a quote from ChatGPT, Cohen's corpus of work often explored themes of love, faith, depression, spirituality, and politics, which he infused with a poetic, almost mystical style. So I thought, wow, that's pretty, I'm going to quote ChatGPT on that one. But it's been covered by a lot of people. John Cale and Rufus Wainwright did different versions for the movie Shrek. Willie Nelson has covered this song, not recommended. Bob Dylan has covered this song, which I don't recommend unless it's not his words, but so unless you like his singing. John Bon Jovi used it as part of his stage act, and it's really actually quite cool. He used it in a soft spot. He's got surrounded by all these instruments, but very soft. K.D. Lang performed it, and she's got a very good rendition of it out. She sang Hallelujah. She sang this at this opening ceremony of the 2010 Winter Olympics. I don't recommend any of the live recordings. I do recommend her studio version. It's very nice. And then finally, the Pentatonics is the group that sings this. So with that, I'll just go ahead and get started on this. But just listen, especially as you get to the end, when we get to the Hallelujah, listen to the very last collection of chords, because, again, it just wallows in Western musicality.
Happy days are here, so
These seemingly disparate pieces of music share something very fundamental. Let's examine what that is, and in the process discover something fascinating about the human mind and the inventiveness of the ancient Greeks. Consider this piano string. If I strike it, it vibrates and makes a sound. This is the sound you hear when it vibrates 440 times a second. Here's the sound at twice that number of vibrations. we notice two things. First, the note sounds the same, only higher. Here they are together. Second, as shown here, the string that makes this higher note is half as long as the original. If the strings are identical except that one is half the length of the other, we hear this sameness property and call it an octave. If we keep cutting the length of the strings in half, this sameness of the notes continues indefinitely. Within an octave, there are an infinite number of pitches. Any number between 440 and 880, for example, represents its own unique pitch in this octave. Yet, in virtually all modern Western music, and increasingly in music worldwide, we limit ourselves to just 12 distinct pitches. How is it that we wound up with 12? Why not 9, or 14, or 6? Now, is there some universal reason why we use these pitches, or were they an arbitrary construction of the human mind? The answer is a little of both. As the Pythagoreans of ancient Greece studied music, they found some combinations of pitches more pleasing than others. A combination held in special regard was the perfect fifth. This is the sound we hear when the shorter string is 2/3 the length of the longer one. On the piano, it's the sound we hear when a note is played along with a note that's 7 semitones higher. The Pythagoreans liked the fifth so much that they tried the following experiment. Start with an initial pitch and construct the pitch that's a fifth higher. Next, create another pitch that's a fifth higher than the pitch just constructed. Note that you can continue in this fashion indefinitely. So why do this? Probably just curiosity. But they did discover that after 13 steps, they returned to the same pitch they started with, though 7 octaves higher. This meant that they encountered 12 different pitches along the way. If we take these pitches and change them by octaves, thus keeping the sameness of sound property, we arrive at the 12 basic pitches we find in Western music. Now, I have to back up here a bit. If we look at those 12 pitches, they don't arrive exactly back at a higher value of the initial pitch. The last one misses by a few percent. This means that relying on the Pythagorean construction, the first and last notes would be slightly out of tune. This small discrepancy is called the Pythagorean comma. To address this musical mismatch, we reset the top pitch in an octave to a true octave. We could stop there, but we don't. Rather than have an awkward step from pitch 12 to pitch 13, we adjust all the pitches in an octave by a little bit. The most common adjustment is to equally space all the steps, but many different tunings have been suggested and used. So, are these 12 pitches, based as they are on a circle of perfect fifths, somehow universal? Is our joy in Western music innate, or have we simply been immersed in it so deeply from birth that we've been trained to like it? I'll leave that for you to ponder. And another question that's even more perplexing. Why do we like music? So I won't say I hope you could see, but I hope you could hear why I chose that last piece for closing. I thought it was pretty nice. Just a couple more comments since I have the podium. Well, I may just have to wing it here. Yeah, so a couple of comments. It's worth noting that while we have the 12 semitones, for those of you who do music, typically we use just 7 tones. We use our musical scales. Remember, join me if you will, if you want to, because I remember this from elementary school. Remember, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And the do, of course, do a deer from. So anyway, we typically, even though we have these 12 tones, we typically work with scales that have seven tones, or sometimes pentatonic scales, 5 tones. And I've discovered a lot of individual music is made from pentatonic scale. If you remember My Girl by The Temptations, bum, ba-da-da-da-da, bum, ba-da-da-da. That is a major pentatonic scale right there. It's one of the 5. So a lot of music is written with just pentatonic scales, although forget harmonies, you need to go a little bit deeper. 2 questions I asked myself. Is there music that doesn't rely on Western musical scale? Of course there is. In fact, from checking with ChatGPT again, and after it gave me this big long thing, that's a really hard number to come up with, but I can guess it from this. So it came up with roughly 40 to 50% of people in the world have been exposed to Western musical scales, but that leaves more than half of the world that's never bumped into these. Although I checked at all sorts of different music. So I did ask myself, is there any music in the world that has the rich harmonic structures of Western music like we heard at the end? Of course, this was asked by virtue of the fact that my introduction to most non-Western music is documentaries where they're playing something in the background that's a single note or something like that. And it turns out there are all sorts of harmonies and all sorts of different things. One thing that seems to be interesting is that they do tend to focus on 5 or 7 tones in their scales, which I found fascinating. And I think there's some mathematical reason for that too, in terms of what things mesh up with other things. And the other thing is, not surprisingly, is that all the different musics have their different rules, right? We have rules with respect to our meters, how they go, what notes we use and things we can do. You don't really have music unless you impose some rules on things and then write according to those rules. So anyway, that's my background on music. Thank you for letting me go into details of stuff like that. Anyway, thank you.
So I'm sorry my mother was not alive to hear this. As a former church musician, she just would have eaten that up. So thank you very much. We're going to take a quick break. If y'all can go out and get some coffee, go to the restroom, and then we'll be back in about 7 minutes. And I keep track. All righty, so our main talk today is going to be by our community member, David Oliverio, one of your favorite former pastors, who now is or has been a personal trainer. So he knows all about how to keep yourself fit and healthy, and like right now, feel like we all should be going for walks and lifting weights and doing whatever we can to get out the extra energy. So, David, come on up.
All right, thank you, Jennifer. Good morning, folks. Can you all hear me? Good. Yeah, I used to give these seminars when I ran my personal training business in Austin, and I never really did it with a microphone. So I'm going to have to show you a few exercises this morning, and hopefully this won't fall out, my microphone, okay? So I'm going to tell you something funny. And by the way, those of you visiting today, welcome. It's good to see people coming. We're just a community of people that love each other, right? And I always like to come Sunday morning because our friends are here, and it's just a great group of people. It always makes me feel good to come. So this morning, Christine saw what I was wearing, and she goes, aren't you speaking today? I said, yeah. She goes, you're going to wear that? I said, you betcha. She goes, you look like a bum. I said, well, personal trainers, great job. Tough job. Somebody's got to do it. We get to wear raggedy old workout clothes. That's another good thing about being a personal trainer. So first of all, I want to start out by going over, I didn't put my timer on, so y'all make sure when I get somewhere around 30, 35 minutes. Am I going to be able to do a Q&A, Jennifer? Will we be able to do Q&A if I get going here? Okay, good. Hopefully we'll have some Q&A time. All right, so you may be asking, what does a former Pentecostal preacher know about fitness and health? Well, let me give you a little bio by credentials and credibility. Build my credibility on fitness and health, right? I started exercising back in 1975, the year I graduated from high school, a long time ago. Y'all are doing the math. Yes, I'm in my late 60s. Until present, I still continue to work out. In 1999, I started racing. I was an athlete in high school back in the 70s, and I started with 5 and 10Ks in Waco, Texas. I started doing 5 and 10Ks, winning some races, and one of my competitors said, why don't you try triathlons? So I started my triathlon career in 2000. I was actually a duathlon, 2-sport versus 3-sport, right? So I was certified, registered duathlete consisting of a run, bike, run races. I did that for 10 years. I was in the top 5 rankings of my age group. Tons of trophies, about 150 trophies. My apartment was nothing but trophies. I threw them all away when I quit racing. Isn't that crazy? Anyway, I had pictures and all that stuff, all the races around Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana. It was a fun time. But my knee started hurting back 14 years ago in my 50s, and I quit racing in 2010. So I've got experience with fitness ever since back in high school. Now, I became a personal trainer in 2007. I got hired by Lifetime Fitness. You've probably heard of Lifetime Fitness in Big A, Austin, Texas, where Christy and I lived for many years. And I lasted 1 year there. Long story short, I missed my autonomy. Typical free thinker. You know, I wanted to go out and do my own thing. So I said, goodbye, Jim. And most of my clients said, I'm going with you. And I said, I don't know if this is correct, but they went with me, and the rest is history. I was an independent trainer for 15, 16 years. In-home, I would go to my clients' homes and train them, primarily older people over 50. Had some youngsters, the 20, 30-year-olds as well. But so I just wanted you to understand, I do have some experience in fitness and health. It's always been a major part of my life. But I wanted to say one thing before we get into integrated long-term fitness. I don't want to offend you 20, 30-year-olds, but it's a different age now. I was watching a 1969 YouTube video on Woodstock. Remember the old rock and roll Woodstock? Some of you older folks remember? If you look at that video, you're going to see something. I see, being a trainer. 90 to 95% of these young people were thin. Sorry, nowadays, different world, right? Standard American diet, technology, all the great things about technology, but people are less active, sedentary. I think we all know that. So I'm going to talk about integrated exercise and long-term fitness. Now, personal training, we do this. Integrated exercise is basically more than just one activity. Some of you may be walkers. Walking is wonderful exercise. You do your cardio. That's good. Is that enough? If you want a full, well-balanced exercise program, you got to do more than just cardio, right? So it's the balanced approach. Number one, we will talk about resistance training, weight training. Number two, we'll talk about cardio, like some of my older clients used to call one lady. She was from Wisconsin. She was so sweet. And she said, Dave, are we going to do cardio today? I said, yeah, cardio. She was excited about doing cardio. Number three, we'll talk about core exercises. We're going to talk about how important that is. The all-important balance or proprioception, right? Especially as you age, we got to do that. And the dreaded stretching exercises that we do. So just think of this approach as a well-balanced approach to long-time fitness. Now, those of you that are young, I see it all the time. I see young people today, and I saw a young couple the other day pushing a little baby in the stroller, and I noticed already, being a personal trainer, you notice things like this. A lot of people gain weight at an early age compared to we did years ago. What I want to say so badly to the young people, I can't just walk up to a stranger and do that. But it doesn't get any easier. I wanted to tell some of these young people, if you're already deconditioned and not exercising, each decade, your body's slowly breaking down, right? You can't stop the aging process. You can slow it down. Now, I've done it for years. I've been doing it for going on, I guess this is my 50th year of fitness and health. Not only as an athlete, but just doing it for my fitness level. And I can tell you, it doesn't get easier when you get older. So my recommendation is, I know you're going to be a little pissed off at me for saying that, but I'm telling you, if you get into a program young and stick with it, it'll pay dividends. And it really benefits, exercise benefits you in so many ways. Your body movement and everything as you age. And I think it's so important. So I want to go ahead and talk about, see if I can do all this with this little microphone. So last time I did a community moment, I didn't have much time, but I brought this. It's an exercise ball. So in personal training and weight training, in home clients, we would use the ball a lot. And these are big old 5-pounders, man. I tell you, I got the big muscles, right? 5-pound weights. I couldn't carry these. Christine dropped me off this morning. I didn't want to bring any heavier weights than these. But so resistance training is very important. Resistance training, as we know, counters muscle atrophy. Muscle atrophy, as we know, is muscle breakdown. Aging can cause it, and inactivity. Youngsters can even have it, right? So we want muscle hypertrophy, or building muscle. So to have a tone, if you want to tone healthier body, cardio is good for the heart, but it does not really work the muscles like weight training, right? So this is part of a balanced, integrated training. Resistance training is just one aspect. And I would say, my experience through the years is probably, if I had to choose one, I would probably pick weight training over the others because you can still get cardio doing weights. But I recommend doing all of these aspects. So in resistance training, of course, you work the different muscle groups, the shoulders, rotation for your rotator cuff. And on the ball, in home client training and so forth, we use this a lot. You may remember my last talk I did on this. When I go down into a position this way, now at a gym, you see the big boys and girls on the benches, right, to do chest presses. What is holding their body up when you're on a bench? The bench. Are you using all the different muscles? Not really. It works the pectoral muscles, the prime mover muscle, the synergy muscle, the tricep, so forth. That's all good if you want to build just isolated muscle. But as you age, long-term fitness, you want to incorporate all the muscles together. So here, what's holding my body up? My gluteus maximus, the glutes, right? The quadriceps, the thighs, the hips, the hamstring. So, and then I proceed with different weight workouts for triceps, chest flies, pullovers and back, what have you. So there's different things to do. With weights, also you want to get a good burn. You want to work the muscles, whether it's a high rep workout, low rep workout. Also for legs, you can use the ball, what I call the booty dip. And I told you the story last time. I remember this young couple I was training in their home. They had a little girl that would come in the back bedroom where we trained. And I said, all right, let's do the booty dip exercise. Because we used to have a lot of fun with clients. We would get to know each other and joke around. And the little girl said, oh, Mommy, he said booty. And she goes, it's okay, honey. He's an adult. So what we do on the ball, you can do leg work on the ball. Those of you that have bad knees, and that's another thing we'll talk about in a moment. Booty dip is just simply that. You're down, feet shoulder width, squeeze the glutes. So you're working all the different lower extremity muscles and the hips, the gluteus maximus, and so forth. Also, for leg work, you've heard of squats, right? Lunges. So squats, feet shoulder width, hips back. If you're doing dumbbell squats, you hold the dumbbells. Make sure your knees line up over the toes, push through the heels, and come up. So squats are a good way you want the weight-bearing exercise. And many of you women understand with the osteoporosis and all, you want to have that weight-bearing exercise, whether it's at a gym with leg presses, whether it's squats. There's also various ways to do lunges. As you age, I can't do the lunges I used to because I got to be careful with this knee. That caused me to retire from racing years ago. But you could do the lunges here, starting on the floor, and just come up here. I didn't bring my floor mat. That's a hard surface. And all the way up. You can do that. Make sure the knee's over the toe. So there are various ways to work the body and build muscle and tone up, okay? So I'm going to move along pretty quick. Now let's talk about cardio. We all know what cardio is. The cardiorespiratory system, we all know, heart and lungs. The heart is a muscle. It's a muscle, right? We want to work that muscle. And in order to do that, we have to put a little bit of stress on it. We have to use the muscles in order for the heart to work stronger. So cardio, there's a lot of different ideas out there. Like everything else in life, it's really hard to find 100% absolutism, right? There's a lot of gray out there. Fitness and health, major consensus, you got to do your cardio. You got to eat your veggies. I think we know that too. But with cardio, everybody's going to give their opinion. Some people say running, some say walking, some say biking, swimming, volleyball, tennis, whatever your activity is. I've come full circle, been in this thing for 50 years. Just pick, my recommendation, pick a cardio exercise that you enjoy. You won't exercise unless it's fun. That's why I get so silly with my clients. We have a lot of fun because they're not going to work out unless you're there and we're having an enjoyable time. For most people, not everybody. So pick a cardio exercise that you enjoy, that you don't dread. Otherwise, you won't do it. So we want to give somewhat of a stressful workout to the cardio system. It doesn't have to be a red line workout. Now, if you're performance training as an athlete, which I used to train myself, a lot of my competitors would hire coaches, but you have to redline it. And those of you that have been hardcore athletes, maybe, you know what I'm talking about. For performance, you got to push your body to the limit, come back and recover. Long-term fitness, you don't have to redline it. You don't have to kill yourself and go into your anaerobic without oxygen, running those 100-meter sprints we used to do in high school or track or whatever. You don't have to double over and huff and puff to lose weight or necessarily be fit. Some people like to do them, and that's fine. Just don't overdo it. The most essential thing for cardio is just to keep your heart rate above average, get it going somewhat. I used to use and I still do with some clients, because I'm kind of coming out of retirement. I'm working a little part-time here and there now with clients. It's called the perceived exertion rate, right? You have to think. I'd ask my clients, Okay, now how do you feel on a scale of 1 to 10 as far as your breathing and heart rate? And they would say, oh, about a 6 or 7. That's good. You don't need to go more than a 7. If you want to get into the higher range of 8 and 9 or all out 10, do it, but come down quickly. So that's enough just to give yourself a good exercise, right? Get the heart flowing, the blood flowing, and the body movement. So cardio is very essential. Let's go to core. Now this is an area that people really don't understand too much. A lot of people like to do sit-ups and crunches. I don't want to get y'all ticked off at me today, but I don't recommend sit-ups or crunches too much, especially if you're 50 and over. Now, let me explain something. We're talking about the balanced approach. I quit doing sit-ups and crunches, many moons ago. 15, 20 years ago. So when you're doing a crunch or a sit-up, I didn't bring my floor mat, but if you're doing a crunch or sit-up, you're using the Will, and all the doctors can correct me on the muscles, but the rectus abdominis, right? Okay, thank you. He's a doctor. You're using the rectus abdominis, but you're not really using the important core muscles down that stabilize the spine, right? Your low back, your hips. You can have a muscular imbalance. So if you do too many of these, this is going to be weakened. And those of you that sit at computers all day, which most people do nowadays, right? That's not good for the back. Now, in training, we do assessments. And I always look at shrugged shoulders, low back pain, people's gait, the way they walk. You can tell by your feet, external rotation, internal rotation, whether somebody's inactive. But for core, you want to make sure that all the muscles that surround the spine, right, thoracic spine, lumbar spine especially, the hips and so forth, are strengthened. I call these the inner unit muscles. They're not just the six-pack muscles that people always want to work on. The most important thing are those muscles that stabilize that spine. And as you age, long-term fitness, right, it's going to give you better posture, better balance. Now, remember, this has to be worked, not just that. So my favorites for most of my clients, young or old, are the variations of planks. Not walk the plank like the old pirate movies, but the planks, right? And you know what I'm talking about. Let me put my phone over here. So planks, there's many ways to do planks. I like the straight arm plank. So when you do planks, basically the reason we have mirrors in gyms is not just for the guys that walk around looking at themselves all day. That happens. But it's primarily to look at your form, right? You want to do correct form. That's why it's important to have trainers sometimes. But so you get into a straight position, a straight line from the shoulder, hips, and all the way down. You want to always engage the core. Now, what I'm feeling is a lot of those low back muscles, the obliques, the front muscles. So it's the balanced approach. And also, one more thing before I show you a couple more exercises. We want to make sure if those of you have gone and taken yoga or Pilates classes, they probably told you and preached to you over and over again, engage your core. Draw the navel, your belly button, to the spine. What does that do? That activates the core muscles. Even if you're working around the house or lifting things, you want to always draw your navel to your spine. Good analogy. Just think of a string. Somehow, magically, you put your hand inside your body, and you tie the string to the back of your navel. It goes through your body along by the spinal cord, the backbone, and you pull the string out. And as you pull it, it draws the navel toward the spine. Just by that gentle movement, and you hold it, that activates the core muscles. Even when you lift weights, it's a good thing to do, okay? That's a good little thing to know. So planks are really good to work these low back muscles. Dumbbell deadlifts, of course, you'd use probably more weight than this, but you've seen people at the gym do this. And this is a good one for the hammies. We call them hammies and your jammies in training. So dumbbells here, and you want that flat back. Again, that's why you need a mirror sometimes. Glutes back, the butt back, head up, come down, squeeze the butt, and come up. So what that does is work all the core muscles here, the hamstrings. Another good one would be I call it the roly-poly. All the clients, they name them all. See if I do it on this hard surface. So this is a variation of the disc roller you've seen people at gyms do. Another good one for the entire core. Hands on the ball, straight, engage the core, roll down on your forearms, tighten up the glutes and the belly button, and then come up. So that's a good way. There's so many different ways to work the entire core and keep that strong. Bird dogs. Bird dogs. This is not only for new clients, but people that have been doing it for many years. Here's a good one. This engages the core and primarily the hips and the low back. A bird dog, right? Those of you hunters, you know what I'm talking about? So arm out straight, parallel to the body or to the floor. Opposite leg out, slight hold. Always tighten up the core and the butt. Opposite. So just this simple movement looks very easy, but it's actually working all these different muscles that are not used primarily. Now, the mistake a lot of people do when they go to a gym, they just don't know. They'll go to a machine, and they'll sit on a machine and do, like an isolated weight training exercise. But they're not really engaging a lot of the other muscles together. Because our muscles in our bodies, biomechanics, we don't just do one movement. In our daily activity, we're either stretching or moving, doing different movements, our bodies working together, reaching down. So a lot of the exercises we call functional training versus isolated training would be like a side lunge, come up, curl, press with light dumbbells, a dumbbell squat, a one-leg squat. So there's various ways to incorporate the muscles together, right? Especially as you age. Excuse me, I've got some allergies this morning here. All right, so I'm going to move along to the dreaded, I always say dreaded, balance exercises. So balance, obviously, otherwise known as proprioception. And as you age, some of you may be experiencing that, the tendons, the connective tissue, the ligaments that attach the bone to muscle, bone to bone, around the joints, tend to weaken as you age, and we lose some of our balance. Now, I always think of this commercial. I know some of you know exactly where I'm going. The commercial back probably in the 70s and 80s. There's a sweet elderly lady. Thankfully, she was an actress doing this commercial. Do you remember the commercial of that poor lady laying on the floor saying, "I've fallen and I can't get up"? You remember that? Okay. So we don't want to be like that, right? And that happens as you age. So we lose the balance. So there are different ways to counter that. Some of you may have done this with your physical therapist. Noah, you probably do that with your clients and patients, right, Noah? So there's a different way to counter that. And balance training would simply be you've got to force the muscles around the connective tissue and the joints, primarily the knee and the ankles, to work, right? The only way to do that is to engage them. So it's kind of hard to do this when so for new clients, I do assessments. I make them do a one-leg balance. Now, some people have a hard time with that, and you can see the instability in either the ankle or the knee. My right knee should be much worse because that was the knee that starts hurting. Not too bad. And there are different ways to do that. There's also the reach downs. You could hold on. This is a really good one for balance and for your lower body and core. You just simply slight bend in the knee, reach down, touch, and come up. Now, I'm getting a good glute, quadricep, and lower body workout and core, but primarily I'm forcing those muscles around the joints to work. And that will strengthen those joints, which will help you in your balance, right? So that's all very, very important. Also, another good one is called the airplane. I remember some of my clients back in Austin, they said, "Well, I'm glad we don't have to do that airplane today, David." I said, "Well, thanks for reminding me. We're going to do an airplane today. Get your wings out, and you're going to start flying, So an airplane is simply that. Put your wings out. I got to focus so I don't fall over. But you're here to pick me up if I fall, aren't you? Okay. That's what humans do. We help each other out, right? So get your wings out, slight bend in the knee. See if I can do it when I'm yakking here. And you get into a 90-degree angle, sorry, and you hold for approximately 30 seconds. Now, you're getting a good workout of the legs, and you're forcing, again, these muscles to work. So that's balance and proprioception training. Now, some of you people in your 40s, 30s, 20s, and younger may think, why do I need to do that? Well, again, the breaking down process and aging process. I've had a lot of young people in fitness tell me, or back when I was racing, before I retired in 2010, these young people would say, I'll be able to race forever. I'm going to have the same times I do now when I'm in my 50s and 60s as in my 20s. I'm like, I don't think so. So we got to remember that. So, but even balance training, I think, is very important for younger people. My son, I have a son who's 38, my daughter's 40, and my son just now realized, he said, Dad, I think you're right. I'm just now starting to see some instability in my ankle. And he's only 38, and he's ripped. I mean, he's in the gym a lot. He's really into fitness. And he's starting to see some instability, only at 38. So if you would, you could even do these at home. Just hold it as long as you can, slight bend in the knee, and hold it for 10, 15 seconds or longer if you can. You can do those 5, 6 days a week. That's a good start. All right, so let me move along to stretching. I haven't been timing myself, but I've got a few more minutes. Oh, I do. Whoa, time's going fast. Okay, stretching. This, of all the integrated things you do in fitness, people probably hate this more than anything, honestly. Stretching. I ask my clients, because I give clients homework when they first hire me. You got to do your cardio exercises. I explain what they can do. Of course, the eating thing, which we really don't have time to get into, that's probably, wow, that's so important for long-term health, internal health. Your diet is so important. Maybe we can talk about that during Q&A a little bit. But most people don't stretch. Why? It requires a little bit of time. It can be very boring. So for my routine, I stretch my regular stretch routine I've been doing for decades. Lasts about 10 minutes. I do it 6 days a week. I give my body 1 day off from stretching. It's good to rest and recover. You can start out, I do the calf stretches. There are different ways to stretch your calves. Now, by the way, we talked about external rotating feet. So some people have this when they walk. Now, a lot of you are going to be very frightened being around me now. David's going to look at my feet. He's going to say, you need to stretch. Not always, but many times it's because of muscular imbalances. Usually it's the calf muscles that are very tight. You can correct that if you lengthen those tight muscles. So there's the calf stretches. There's always the hamstring stretches. Well, gosh, I'm going to do it anyways. Okay, let's see. Hard floor. So it's a good way to stretch the hamstrings or the hammies in your jammies, right? The hamstring muscles are connected to the low back. Those of you that have some back issues and pain in your back, sometimes if you stretch your hamstrings, it'll loosen up your back. It's amazing how that works. Oh, okay. So hands behind the knee, draw the toe down, just simply pull back and hold for about 30 seconds. Now, thing about flexibility. You want to stretch the primary muscles, the quadricep, hip flexors, hamstrings, and so forth. And you want to hold it for 30 to 45 seconds, depending on who you talk to. Some physical therapists will say up to 3 minutes. I dated a physical therapist years ago, BC, before Christine, and she was a physical therapist. She said, oh, you trainers, you bring me good business. I like it. You hurt them, and I help repair them. Yeah. But I never did hurt anybody. I was always very sensitive, make sure I don't hurt anybody. We were too busy goofing off or eating their food or playing with their pets, you know. It was a lot of fun going to people's homes. But stretching is very essential. We have the tight muscles that need to be lengthened. Now, again, external rotated feet. Some people, as they age, I can tell when they walk, some people do the little waddle, and they're only in their 50s or 60s, and they can't walk very fast. Sometimes they're just very tight. So there's 2 types of stretching. There's active flexibility, movement, which is pre-exercise. You see people sometimes static stretching before they run. I would recommend you do active flexibility pre-exercise. That's movement, like hip swings. The hippie swings, we used to call them. So you just swing your hips, right? You do the lateral and the front and back. So any kind of movement for flexibility. 2 more minutes, thank you. And then there's static stretching. Static post-exercise. So I always, whether it's my long walk cardio day, which you all know I like to walk many miles and very fast, I'd stretch, okay? So it's very essential. So by incorporating all 5 of these areas, it doesn't stop the aging process, but it really helps you to enjoy your life. You're not going to have as many aches and pains. A lot of people have shoulder issues and neck pain once you get exercising, right? Noah, you do that with your clients and other people that are in this field. You know what I'm talking about. When you get people's muscles strengthened, low back, shoulders, neck, then it really helps, and it benefits your life in so many ways. I didn't get a chance to get into nutrition, but just remember that of all the food groups, what food group contains the most nutrients? Anybody want to guess? Eat your veggies. Yeah. I mean, you can't go wrong. And those of you that do eat meat, I'm not a pure vegan. I tried that for a while. I'm about 90% plant-based. I eat about 10% of my calories come from animals. A little bit of eggs once a week, either chicken, even red meat once in a while, but not very often. So I do eat a little bit of animal proteins, but find what works for you. There's a lot of different ideas out there, and most people are going to tell you, you need to eat this way or exercise this way. Warning, warning, nobody knows it all. We're always learning. We can learn from each other. There's not one size fits all. Believe me, I've been all around, tried all this stuff, and just find out what works for you, and primarily eat a healthy diet of plant-based and some proteins. So Jennifer, do I have time for Q&A? Yep. Okay. All right, so I want to warn you, if you ask me a question I don't know, I'm just going to go, I don't know. Okay? All right. I'm going to start over here and move this way.
Test.
Thank you. Every time I go to the, thank you for your talk. Every time I go to the gym, I have what I call a cardio warm-up. I stretch, and I spend about 12, 13 minutes on the Stairmaster and listen to 80s music to get all pumped up. And I feel like I'm either at an 80s club at Numbers, or I've gone back in time to like 1987 at a White Snake concert. But on my question, so on some of the machines, or even free weights, I'll get on this one level where it just feels too weak, it feels too light, the weight, and I'm doing more reps. I'm like, okay, I'm doing more than 10 reps on this rate. So but then I up it just one notch extra, and I could barely do that one. I could barely get to like 7. What are your suggestions on how to manage? Because I don't want to plateau, I want to constantly challenge, but I also particularly free weights, understand the importance. I want to maintain the form, because form is, I think, I've been told form is more important than how strong you can lift.
Yeah, probably I would recommend maybe light but more reps. You could do that. Different tempo, there's different tempos, fast tempo, slow tempo. And even as you age, I'd be careful not to go too heavy. You know, that's just my take on that, because you can hurt yourself. Lots of reps and lighter. Yes, Linda?
What stretches should you do after you walk?
Well, walking is obviously primarily lower body, but I would primarily do the hamstrings, the calf, the quads, the glutes, the hips, those. And you can Google all this. There's so many great stretches. The ones I do are just your basics, but there's so many. But for walking, just your basic lower body stretches. And remember, static, hold it for 30 seconds, maybe 2 sets each muscle group. That's what I've always had my clients do.
A quick question, is it better, in your opinion, what is it better to do, weights and then cardio, or cardio and then weights?
That's a good, oh boy, it's debatable. That's one of those areas of gray, and then anybody wants to argue, but that depends on if you're going to do them the same day, right? But if you do it on the same day, Most of us would say probably the priority, I would say weights first. Maybe a light warm-up, like you said, Stephen, first to get your heart pumping, and some movement for the upper body. You can do these, warm up, or arm swings before you lift. Make sure you're a little bit warm. I would say probably lift first and then cardio. To me, I do this. I have cardio days and lift days. I focus just on long walk or my days in the gym. Weights, yeah. Good question, yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
I have several. I'm going to cheat several questions, and you can answer any of them or none.
Oh, no.
Or,
Okay.
okay. What would you say is like percentage ratio-wise of importance or contribution to our fitness, like diet versus exercise? Like, is it 50-50? The other question I have is like I've heard like don't or if you do stretch after like a workout or running or something, do it again later because like your muscles are already warming, and then later when it's cooler, then stretch it again. I don't know if
I've
there's
never
a
heard that one,
timing.
but, yeah.
And and also like if you are already active throughout the day, it's like working, doing stuff or whatever, would you say like it's like still a good idea to do exercise just for exercise?
Oh, if you're already active in your
Yeah.
daily routines and all? Yeah, I mean, sure. I would have a routine. It's good to stick with routine. If you have a designated workout, if you feel good, you don't feel tired. If you're having one of those days, you're just exhausted, you're stressed out, don't work out. Your body's telling you, listen to your body, I need rest. It's okay to skip a day. I hope that answers your question.
Sort of like I do sculpture, so I like like would carry heavy things and stand on day, like just constantly moving and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I'm just wondering like, should I also still go to the
What-
gym?
Perceived exertion. It depends on how you feel. If you feel
Okay.
exhausted, your muscles are tired, you just don't feel good, don't go to the gym. You're not going to benefit. It's going to add exhaustion to you. There's this thing called OTS, overtraining syndrome. You can overtrain, overexercise. So I would just be careful and probably take a day off. To answer your first question, the debate between, what's more important, was it? I forgot. Thank you, Farina. Yeah. I would say exercise versus nutrition. For weight loss, it's going to come, the older you get, I've changed. Now it's about, to me, 85 to 90% what you eat. You can lose weight without even exercise, but you'll be a skinny person or a skinny fat person. That you can be a skinny fat person without any muscle tone just by eating less calories. But I would say the healthiest way to do it is eat healthy and exercise. But if you had to choose one, overall health, probably nutrition. But yeah.
So you mentioned that you also take a day off from stretching, like
Yeah.
on the 7th day. What would you recommend for still having an active rest day?
Inactive rest.
Like having an active rest day, like I don't want to not do anything on Sundays.
Yeah.
I still want to be active, but I don't want to be like overdoing it.
Yeah.
So like, what would you recommend for like active rest?
Oh, yeah.
If that makes sense.
There's active recovery, and then there's just being a lazy bum recovery, which I was real good at. As a duathlete, when I raced those semi-pro races, I would take 1 or 2 days a week and just completely do nothing, literally. Depends on the intensity of your exercise. But for regular fitness, I think it's very important. For me, I'll take a day or two and not do much at all except stretch, maybe that day. So I think it depends on what you feel good with doing. Some people like to still the active movements for recovery. Other people, I prefer just to be a lazy bum and do nothing that day. That's me. Or take a nap,
Yeah, what's your opinion of doing yoga in a hot room for 90 minutes?
Woo!
105 degrees.
Personally, I've never done it, but my take probably, it sounds pretty stressful with that heat. I would double check and do some research on that before you jump into it. Talk to some professionals and find out, because personally it sounds very stressful. You don't want to overstress, especially as we we age. But I can understand the concept. You want loose muscles in the heat, but you can warm yourself up even at a gym, just walking into the sauna or steam room for a few minutes. Yeah, it does. I know. But at the same time, you got to be careful. Like when I used to race or summer races, you don't want to overheat your body, too. You can go too much. I've always been very aware of that. I don't want to do too much and injure myself or get sick.
What's your take on high-intensity interval training?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, again, I don't do it anymore. I got really burned out as an athlete, but we would do that for racing. But HIIT training or high intensity, otherwise no. A lot of people swear by it, and it works for them. My son-in-law, my daughter's husband, he's 45. He has a CrossFit gym up in Dallas, in Plano, and he's real big on that. And of course, he's 45. He's younger, but some people it works for. I think it's okay. Just remember, maybe one day a week, and most of your training for cardio should be more at your 70%, 65, 70% max heart rate, 75%. To redline it, whatever, for short intervals, that's okay. If you like it. Some people like that pain, which I used to, not anymore, no more, But again, just make sure you take plenty of recovery time.
Okay. You're the last one. Okay. So I am hypermobile EDS, and so I'm very limited to mostly just like weightlifting, and I'm really concerned about like balance and stretching kind of exercises. So do you have like any recommendations of like how someone who's like hypermobile, how they'll stay safe while trying to incorporate more of that balance and stretching when exercising?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different ways to do. You can do stretches if you have issues. Even sitting, you can do those type of stretches, right? Excuse me, let me get this chair. For example, you could do like your basic little, you could do a little hamstring stretch seated. You've probably done that. Just grab the toe, lean forward. You could do low back exercises seated with dumbbells here. Sit on the edge of the chair. Make sure the low back's flat, engage the core, reach down. A lot of my older clients in their 70s and 80s even, I'd have them do this. Just hold the dumbbells down and come up. And that way, you're not having to move too much, and you can work that. And then there's always the seated rotations. You can do this, so there are different things. Yeah. Okay, is that it?
Thanks very much. What I loved about what David said was that all this stuff you can do without a gym membership.
Very true.
So you can do exercises at home, and of course there's YouTube now and all that kind of stuff. So that's great. So I just want to go over a few quick announcements. Next week we're not going to have a talk. We're going to have our fundraiser brunch. So we invite everybody to come and bring your stuff for brunch to share for yourself or whatever. And we will meet in here. You can bring board games. If there are 4 people who know how to play, a little bridge may break out. So we would love for y'all to come. We're going to have a silent auction to raise money for Oasis. And we also have a cookbook that's been put together, so we will have that for sale. Anything else people need to know, Verena? So we hope that y'all will come next Sunday. It will be a little bit different from our typical format, but it will give us all a chance to chat and play games together and compete for auction items. We also have Blues Night coming up. It's in your bulletin. Always at the Big Easy. It'll be November 21st. The book club, so you can get going reading on your book, is December 4th. The book is by Ann Patchett called Bel Canto. So we look forward to that. The Solstice Party is our annual holiday party, and that will be at Gristworks on December 14th. So you can mark your calendar. I also encourage you to go to our website calendar and check us out on Facebook and Instagram. We have a lot of those events listed there if you don't want to rely on this. So I think that's it for the events coming up. Anybody have any celebrations or concerns? Okay. And there is a very limited supply. Okay, well, before we do celebrations and concerns, Tim just reminded me, we are in a bit of a coffee crunch this month because the folks that normally do the coffee in November could not do it. So if anybody wants to learn how to make coffee, and we go and get all the supplies and all that, we just need somebody that can be here about 45 minutes before we start, because that's how long it takes for the big old percolator to do its thing, to brew the coffee and have it ready for us. Please let me or Tim or any member of the board or maybe the person doing the coffee today know, because I think y'all know coffee's important. And, you know, if nobody does it, then there just might be an unpleasant surprise when you show up Sunday. So that's kind of big. If somebody can help us with that would be great. Now, do we have any celebrations or concerns? Anybody have something great happen to them this week, or they're worried about something? Well, we'll talk about the election in a minute. Anything besides the election that's worrying you? Yes. Sure. Who? Oh, I'm sorry, who has? Oh, Jenny. Yay, welcome back, Jenny. You've been working on a trail somewhere? Oh, wow, that's great. Well, thank you for your service. All righty, okay, so now comes my money pitch. So as y'all know, we rent this space, we rent a storage space, we pay for childcare, you know, we pay for all kinds of stuff. So we need whatever financial help you can give us. We have a hat at the back if you want to throw in a donation. We also accept, you can make a recurring donation if you want to get on the list to do that. Tim will be happy to take your credit card and we'll charge your card every month, or we do get checks in the mail once a month. We also have, he's reminding me again, QR codes on the back. I always forget about these because they're magic to me. You can scan the QR code for various types of information, so that makes it easy. You can just take that home. So that's the main, we do like money. If your main contribution is to come or to come do coffee, that's okay too. We're happy with whatever you're willing to give. And we think you get a lot out of it too. So lunch today is at Moni's Pizza, which should be in the bulletin. So now we're going to have another couple of songs from Joseph, and then we'll try and get in the space for the next week.
All right, I'm going to close out with a song I wrote that I wasn't sure what to play, and then the music presentation got me thinking about all the different great art in the world, and so this is a song I have that's kind of a variety is the spice of life. And then I'll close with a Paul Simon tune that always brings me a lot of comfort in times like this. I can't remember being so anxious about an election. I've been paying attention for maybe 25 years, and I just feel like the world's going to end if it doesn't go my way on Tuesday whenever we find out. So hopefully it does the same thing for you that it does for me. But this first one is, it's called Art Museum. The world is a dismal place. The world is a dismal place until you see the snow. On a canvas in the sky, you better stop to wonder why we're living a life of pain. We're living a life of pain when love is all around. Gotta find it because it's hiding in the basements of our heart. Baby, let's get lost in a big art museum. We can lose our bearings, no despair. Think that we have a lot to discover if we open up our hearts and minds tonight. Imagination taking place. I never know what to say. I never know what to say when people disagree. They think I'm wrong, I'm holding on to what I want the world to be. They shouldn't close their eyes. But they shouldn't close their eyes to all the majesty everywhere you see in the world, and yet unfurled for us to feed our weary soul. Maybe let's get lost in a big art museum. We can lose our bearings, no despair. Think that we have a lot to discover if we open our hearts and minds tonight. Imagination taking place. Open your heart to the beautiful art and can fill in the holes in your withering soul. If you keep it away in your soul, decay, and it's never too late to enjoy the buffet. It's been laid out for you, and if you only knew what you pick with its beauty and passion could do, you'd make more of an effort to take in the view, because life is its meaning if you don't pursue all the love. Love, 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 love. Ooh. Maybe let's get lost in a big art museum. We can lose our bearings, no despair, and think that we have a lot to discover if we open our hearts and minds. Let's get lost in a big art museum. We can lose our bearings, no despair, and I think that we have a lot to discover if we open our hearts and minds tonight. Imagination taking flight. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. It's a true story. So, like I said, I think this is called American Tune by Paul Simon, and it's kind of puts everything in perspective for me. I'll probably be listening to it on repeat the next few days. A little help from Paul Simon, a little therapy, a little whiskey maybe. In moderation, of course. Let me tune, because that's bothering me. You can check me out on Joseph Crump Music if you want to follow what I'm doing. Instagram is kind of where I update people on where I'm playing next and that kind of thing. Music releasing and that kind of deal. And I also do a monthly stream from my house where I feature local songwriters who I admire with some high quality audio. So thanks a lot. Enjoyed it.
Thank you very much. That was the perfect song to end us. There's something about Paul Simon. I don't know. He's just like, oh. Okay. So the elephant is in the room. We got a big old election this week. Our religious friends can take a lot of comfort from letting go and letting their higher power. you know what I mean. You've heard that expression and that phrase, let go and let God. And that can work. Like, you know, there are folks that can like compartmentalize and put it aside, and I'm not one of those people. So I'm not going to do a survey right now. My guess is that most of the people in this room have probably early voted. So you've done your duty. So now you got the next 72 hours to figure out what to do with yourself and how you're going to handle the waiting and the anxiety and the ads and the text messages and the, you know, oh my gosh. So I'm no great sage. I just have, I think, some common sense things. If you're somebody who really feels like you need to do something, you know, continue to write postcards or door knock or whatever activism that makes you feel good and makes you feel like you're doing the most that you can for this election. If you're somebody that needs to be quiet and kind of get yourself centered, then do that. Go for a walk. Listen to some great music. Call a friend. Be grateful. Maybe make a list of all the things that you're grateful for right now. We had some rain, you know. Maybe it'll cool down next week and it'll feel like November instead of, you know, June. But I think just the main thing is to take care of yourself, however you need to take care of yourself. And remember that whatever happens after Tuesday, we all have each other. If you need a place to hang out on Tuesday night for the returns, my door is open. We have a very well-stocked bar because my husband likes to mix drinks. I would be happy for somebody to come help us make a dent in all that liquor supply. But be together if you need to. Find some folks to hang out with. I have a cousin who's inviting some folks over to play mahjong while they, you know, have the TV on. So, so everybody really just take care of yourself and understand that whatever happens, we're still a community. We still have each other. We'll deal with whatever happens after the election. Just take care of yourself for the next 72 hours. All righty? All right, go in peace.